The ministry has also engaged the services of contractors to develop 14,150 hectares of farmland for smallholder and commercial farmers. This will add 144,000 metric tons of maize per annum to our national production. On post-harvest infrastructure, to address the perennial problem of post-harvest losses, especially for vegetables, the ministry is investing in the construction of 26 aggregation centers and 12 pack houses in selected districts across the vegetable growing regions in the country. We have also commenced the construction of a 60,000 metric ton silo facility in Hwehwe in the Kwahu East district for the storage of rice and maize as part of the Strategic Grain Reserve Program. Let me now come to the issue that has brought us here. The Ghana Meteorological Agency, GMET, predicted intermittent dry spells during this year's cropping season. However, the dry spells in the 8 regions have been continuous, resulting in near drought conditions that have significantly disrupted production. The weather for July and August have been relatively dry and sunny. The pattern of rainfall has been unreliable, and the amount of rainfall recorded this season has been lower compared to that of last year. This situation prevented some farmers from preparing their farmlands for production, while those who were able to prepare their land could not sow due to the absence of moisture. The farmers who took advantage of the early rains in June have experienced severe water stress on their farms. Most of the crops, especially maize and groundnut, have reached their critical wilting points. Let me take you through the weather situation using 3 selected regions as case studies. The Upper West region. This graph on your screen illustrates a stark contrast in rainfall between 2023 and 2024 from June to mid-August. 2023 saw significantly higher rainfall with a pronounced peak in early August. In contrast, in 2024, experienced considerable lower rainfall throughout this period, indicating a potential drought or significantly higher drier conditions this year. This drastic decrease in rainfall could have severe implications for agriculture and water resources. You will see on the graph that in 2024, we received 575 millimeters of rainfall as compared to 982 millimeters of rainfall in 2023. In the Bono East region, Abiasi is located in the Prang district in Bono East. The graph shows a comparison that in this particular area, from July 10th to August 12th, the area received zero rain. And thus, in Abiasi, in the Prang district, from the period July 1st to August 12th, they received 351 millimeters of rain as against 937 same period last year. The weather condition in the northern region. The northern region experienced low rainfall this year as compared to last year, as shown on the graph. Finally, the crop and pastoral impact due to the prolonged dry spell. On the screen, you will see a shift from green to brown and yellow hues in 2024, which is the first image on the screen. It indicates a decreased vegetation health, suggesting plants are under stress from lack of moisture. The extensive brown and yellow areas highlight the widespread impact of the dry spell in the region. The image is from 2022, which is at the bottom of Upper West, Upper East, and the same on top, showing the severe stress and the lack of moisture. The final image is data from Ignitia, which is the next image. This data from Ignitia from 13th to 20th August, 7 days, shows rainfall experienced in the whole country and the sub-region. The dark red means greater than 100 millimeters, yellow 30 millimeters, and green 10 millimeters. The oval marking indicates areas where almost no rainfall has been observed, indicative also of the past month. Information from Ignitia, sourced from Agromite, indicates a heavy rainfall, and this is the rainfall situation or the outlook. Ignitia's report, as sourced from Agromite, indicates a heavy rainfall eventually passing through on the 20th of August. This resulted in large volumes in several locations in Tamale, Bole, Wa, Navrongo, Yendi, and most of the Savannah and northern regions, and also benefited from this rain. Now, this is good news. The 20th August rain event is expected to mark the beginning of more plentiful rains in the central and northern parts of Ghana. The end of the season is expected in mid to late October for extreme north and middle of November for central Ghana, with coastal Ghana set for dry season in December. The outlook for the next 4 weeks. Sufficient amount of rain for crop growth is expected over the next 2 weeks across the northern half of Ghana, and the rainfall distribution is also marginally conducive for planting a little further south in Bono East, Ahafo, northern half of Ashanti and Oti regions. In about 2 weeks' time, all regions except the coastal regions are expected to receive adequate rainfall volumes. The outlook from September to December marks September 1, or the month of September, marks the beginning of the second rainy season in the south of Ghana, as rains start to contract towards the coast. This means that most of the southern Ghana should be able to see sufficient amounts of rain to support crop growth. Rainfall will hence become more frequent and abundant throughout the country during September, before the dry season starts setting in around mid to late October in northern Ghana, mid-November for southern half, with the exception of the coastal areas in the northern regions where the dry season is expected only in December. Now, the effects of the dry spell. Preliminary reports indicate that about 928,523 farmers cropping 1.8,557,000 hectares are at risk. And I'm talking about those at risk. These farmers will lose an estimated investment of 7.4 billion cedis if there is total crop failure. The 928,523 farmers cropping 1.8,507,000 hectares, those at risk, they will lose an estimated investment of 7.4 billion if there is total crop failure. The corresponding revenue loss is estimated at 22.2 billion. So the investment is what they put in seeds, in inputs, fertilizers, farm hands, and all that they put into crop. That is 7 billion. The revenue is the sales, what they will derive from the investment that they will make. And that is estimated at 22 billion, representing 10% of agriculture GDP, which in itself is about 220 billion. As at 20th August, 435,872 farmers cultivating an estimated area of 871,000 hectares, have been directly affected. So earlier on, I talked about those at risk being 928,523. The 435,872 are those that have been confirmed as affected as at 20th August, and the audit is still ongoing. Maize, rice, groundnut, soya bean, sorghum, millet, and yam are the most widely affected crops across these regions. The affected farmers have lost an estimated investment of 3.5 billion with a corresponding potential revenue of 10.4 billion. So of those affected, not the entire at risk that I mentioned have lost 22 billion. The confirmed affected, they have lost an investment of 3.5 billion and the corresponding potential revenue of 10.4 billion. These drought conditions have far-reaching implications for food security and livelihoods, with the following notable consequences. Food shortage. The affected regions contribute about 62% of the country's grain supply. The affected regions, they contribute about 62% of the country's grain supply. However, from September to December and maybe January, February of the following year, which coincides with the minor season of the southern sector, these regions contribute about 85% of our grain supply. So that whole 12 months, they contribute 62, southern sector, major and minor production. The northern zone, they have only one cropping season, and that is their major season. And that harvest comes in from our 20th of September. So from that September to December, they contribute about 85% of our national grain supply. But if you put all together in a year, they contribute 62% of our grain supply. Given the projected crop failure, we are forecasting a significant shortfall in grain availability. Now, without any interventions, this percent of the total expected production. So for those that are affected, we have to write off about 90% of their total production, which means that we are writing off their investment effectively. There, of course, I have mentioned that there will be a decline in agricultural GDP. The estimated production losses will lead to about a 10% decline in agricultural GDP. The northern regions are located near our neighboring countries that are experiencing some forms of extremism. There is a significant risk of the spread of extremism if the youth become unemployed, idle, and hungry, and feel a sense of hopelessness in the absence of any interventions from government. In response to the phenomenon, the government is taking immediate actions to address the situation. In the medium to long term, government expects the sector to develop resilience to these climatic conditions as it rolls out more irrigation and water management schemes. The immediate interventions from now to January 2025. The following measures have been approved by government for implementation by the ministry to avert a food security crisis. With immediate effect, government is placing a ban on the export of grains, including maize, rice, soya bean, until the situation normalizes. This measure is essential to ensure the availability of these critical crops on the domestic market. Any farmer with stock and interested in selling should contact our district directorates across the country, our district aggregators, or the Directorate of Crops, Ministry of Agriculture. This is to ensure that farmers do not suffer adversely from this ban. As earlier mentioned, the affected regions contribute over 62% of our grain supply. With the projected shortfall in grain supply, government will tap into the ECOWAS grain reserve and partner with the private sector to bridge the gap. Government will also bring in 300,000 metric tons of maize and 150,000 metric tons of rice to provide food support to vulnerable farmers who have lost their crop and also for the market. Additionally, we will bring in a total volume of 26,000 metric tons of poultry feed to directly support the poultry industry, as maize, their main raw material, has been severely affected. The following interventions will also be targeted directly at farmers to bring them relief. Cash transfers. We have identified 928,523 farmers cultivating 1.8 million hectares who are at risk, but been able to confirm 435,000 of the at risk. We have been able to confirm 435,000, cultivating 871,000 hectares. Government has decided to provide financial support amounting to 1,000 Ghana cedis per hectare to the most vulnerable among these farmers as partial cover for their investment. Government will also provide affected vulnerable farmers with some food grant to enable them meet their minimum nutritional requirement. Input support. Seed replanting assistance. For farmers whose crops have failed due to the lack of rain, we will be launching a replanting support program. This will include the provision of fast maturing seeds that can still be planted within the remaining window of the season. Farmers who need to replant will also be provided with grant fertilizers to ensure that they can still achieve a reasonable yield. Planting for Food and Jobs is focused on input credit, but for the affected farmers who have lost their investment, we need to run a blend, and the government intervention will be to provide them with some input grant, and they also have access to the input credit. This will help mitigate the financial burden on farmers who are facing additional costs due to the dry spell. Let me also mention that there will be a boost in input support for farmers in the southern sector to maximize their production in the minor season. It is important that we do this to bridge so that we can reduce the food that we intend to bring in. So if we can boost production in the southern sector, which planting season is starting now, it will help us reduce the food that we intend to bring in. Farmer relief support. The following interventions will also be targeted at farmers to bring them relief, which is activating all our extension officers across the country and the private sector aggregators extension officers on ground to help with the proper agronomic and soil conservation practices to help retain soil moisture and give the crops the best chance to survive. To avert future reoccurrence, the ministry, through the Food Systems Resilience Project, is working with GMET to provide agro-meteorological forecasts and advisories for agriculture. Let me mention that one of the things that affected, even though we communicated to farmers in a way, not every farmer was able to get the information. And so what we are experiencing, what we are seeing now on the ground is that the planting season has been delayed by 1 month because the meteorological information could not reach farmers. Many farmers planted and therefore got caught up in this challenge that we are in. So we have acquired 20 automatic weather stations for GMET, which will be installed at key locations nationwide. We recognize, in conclusion, we recognize that the ultimate and sustainable solutions to the current situation, which is a reflection of the inherent risk of climate change, is the provision of irrigation and water management systems that support all year-round farming. To this end, government shall mobilize the required resources to complete all irrigation projects under the Agricultural Economic Enclaves Program, as well as the completion of all irrigation projects in the pipeline. The PFJ 2.0 continues to be our roadmap to achieving food security and resilience. Government will remain focused on the program and ensure that the rollout of all the planned interventions to meet the targets. MOFA will continue to monitor the crop situation in both the northern and southern minor seasons and of course sectors, and keep the nation informed. Thank you very much. We have on the screen some images of the situations up north, if you can continue scrolling. So this is a farm, a wilted maize farm in Pandai in the Oti region. This farm is more than 100 acres, and this is what you see as the sort of height of the farm. Sorry, Pandai in northern region. This is a 2-month-old maize plant, 2 months. I want to show you a 500-acre rice farm in the Bono East region, near a village called Jatokrom, close to Kentampo. This is a 500-acre rice farm, completely destroyed. The next image is a 1,000-acre farm. Next, please. Next. 1,000-acre maize farm, completely destroyed. This is 2 months old. The maize that you see is 2 months old, completely gone. So you can imagine if you're a farmer and you've made this investment totally, and they look, even at 2 months, they look green, but it's all gone. It's all gone. It's quite a sad situation. There's a next gentleman on a rice farm. Yep. You see the faces of our citizens that are in the next image, please. And these are the faces of dejection, having suffered this loss. The gentleman on the left on the farm, when we spoke with him, was quite sad. I think he had gotten to the point. It's quite a sad situation. Next, our extension officers, scroll up. Our officers are on the ground, surveying, identifying our affected farmers and farms throughout the country. There's a very, keep scrolling. I had to take the Minister for Finance to Bono East, Jatokrom, Kentampo, and Tamale, Lamasheku, to show him firsthand what the challenges are on the ground. There's an image. Very well. You can skip the video.
Maize that should have been looking healthier than you see. And this is as a result of the effect of the drought that we have experienced here in the Sisale Enclave for several weeks. This is the farm that I had shared pictures of earlier on my wall, located in between Jeffy.
Very well. we will have all these images and videos on the MOFA portal, on the GAP portal, if you are interested in downloading them. Our PRO will also make soft copies for you. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much, Honorable Minister, for the swift action taken and for that impressive presentation. Clearly, we are in good hands. It calls for worry, but with the presentation you have made and all the measures you've put across, I am confident that we are in good hands. On that note, ladies and gentlemen, I would like to invite the Honorable Minister for Finance and Member of Parliament for Karaga constituency, Dr. Mohammed Amin Adam, for his remarks.
Well, thank you very much, honorable ministers, ladies and gentlemen. Listening to the Minister for Food and Agriculture, it described the situation as a situational crisis. But what I saw when I visited the field with him really is a crisis. A crisis is a crisis. Because I spoke to the farmers directly, and I went to the farms. There is nothing left for the farmers. And given that the food from the north is what we consume from September thereabout to early in the year, it will just hit us very soon. And this is why I think it's a crisis. It's coming, as some people may see it, but others are already feeling it. And so it is important that government responds, and responds quickly. I did not only accompany the Minister for Agriculture, I also accompanied His Excellency the President to farms in the Tolong district. And I felt so sad about what the farmers expressed in their frustration, in their worry about where to get food to live on. Investments have been lost, and even with the rains that we are experiencing now, the rains may not be enough to support the maturity of crops. Usually in the northern part of Ghana, by this time, new maize is on the market. If you go to markets in Tamale, you will not find a bag of maize. Prices are also going up. And so, for those of us in charge of the management of the economy, we are directly affected from different perspectives. Number one, our focus as a government, having stabilized the economy, and we are seeing the macro fundamentals improving day by day, we decided that we will focus on growth, economic growth. And we saw the numbers last year, ending the year by 2.9% economic growth. First quarter of this year, achieving 4.7% growth. And we're expecting that this trend will continue to the end of the year. But realizing that one of our growth poles if you like, one of the major contributors to our growth, which is agriculture, is now facing the kind of challenges that we are seeing. It simply means that our growth trajectory is in danger. Economic growth is in danger. We also look at it from the perspective of pricing. We have seen for some time now inflation trending down from about 54% inflation in 2022, by end of 2022, to about 20% inflation in June this year. And our expectation is that we end the year with an inflation rate of 15%. I am very optimistic that we will make significant progress. But we also know that our inflation basket is dominated by food inflation. When you see food shortage, and therefore the effect on prices, you should expect that inflation will respond, and will respond in the way that you do not want. Then we are also talking about bringing in food for the market, and also to provide food reliefs. I'm here to discuss with the minister how we are going to source the food. He may be running away from mentioning imports, but we already import a lot of our food. And so one other ways the economy may be affected is from the perspective of foreign exchange. People are complaining the cedi is getting weaker against the dollar, the rate is higher against the cedi. And so if you are going to bring in more food to support what we already have, you need to back it with forex. And therefore the demand for the dollar will certainly increase relative to what we anticipated if we didn't have to meet the additional food requirement, some of which may come through imports. And so in different ways the economy is going to be affected. But this is why we are a government, that when we see things like this happening, we have to respond. Our response may not entirely neutralize the extent of the problem, but our response certainly will help in stabilizing the situation until we get out of the crisis. And so, as the Honorable Minister for Food and Agriculture said, we are seeking to raise about $500 million US, the equivalent of 8 billion Ghana cedis, to fund the crisis response program. This is so much money, but we are doing this also at a time when our buffers are almost depleted. We are entering the 8th month or the 9th month of our fiscal year. The budget has been implemented so far for about 8 to 9 months. And you should expect that most of your financial buffers are not there any longer. So this is a difficulty, but we have to raise the funds. As a responsible government, as a sensitive government as we are, His Excellency the President has directed that we do everything within our power to find the money to fund the government response. So far, from the budget side, we have been able to secure up to $160 million. That's about 2.5 billion Ghana cedis. This is largely coming from the contingency fund, which our constitution established. And so we intend to trigger the processes for accessing the contingency fund. We are also doing what we call budgetary alignment to reallocate some funds that were originally meant for other purposes towards addressing the crisis. And so together, 2.5 billion Ghana cedis being mobilized from the budget side. We also relying on our development partners, and we've had serious engagements with our development partners over the past 1 week or so. And within this short period, we can report that we are able to secure 155 million US dollars. That is about 2.4 billion, almost 2.5 billion Ghana cedis. And so out of the 8 billion Ghana cedis we are seeking to mobilize, we can say that we have visibility on about 5 billion Ghana cedis that we want to use, and use it quickly to respond to this crisis. It may be interesting to also note that the part coming from the development partners, mainly led by the World Bank, will be used for measures such as the cash transfers and also to support input supplies, whilst we are seeking to use funds from the budget to bring in more food, more grains, rice, maize, etc., poultry feed for the market, and also to provide food relief to farmers. I should mention also that even though we can have visibility on about $315 million, the balance of about $185 million, we believe we can mobilize them as well. We can mobilize this money. If we have been able to mobilize $315 million, we should be able to mobilize $185 million, because some of the development partners are supporting in kind. If you quantify them in monetary terms, we should be able to get some money from that source. Others are coming in smaller bits. Multilaterals, bilaterals, international development partners, they are all responding to support Ghana address this challenge, because they all have been part of our development journey. Our journey to move away from the crisis we experienced in 2022 in particular. They have been part of this journey. And these are not development partners who are going to sit back for the economy, the gains we have made, to be reversed. And so we are working closely with them to ensure that we respond and respond adequately. Now, some people may be interested in accountability, because usually during crisis, some resources may not be utilized properly or may not be accounted for. We have heard about this in crisis after crisis. We are committed to ensuring transparency and accountability in the management of these resources that we are mobilizing to respond to this crisis. And to do this, we've set up a technical task force comprising development partners and government agencies of Finance Ministry, of Ministry of Food and Agriculture, to ensure that this task force will identify, look at the data again, to identify where support is needed, and also to help in allocating and monitoring the distribution of these resources to ensure that the resources get to affected people. At the end of it all, we should be able to report on what these resources have been used for. And so I want to assure you, the people of Ghana, that this government is going to be transparent, we are going to be accountable, and this, we owe it as a duty to the people of Ghana to ensure that your resources and other resources we raise on your behalf are utilized for the purpose. So I thank you for your attention, and I'll take any question that you have. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Honorable Minister for Finance. Sitting there watching both of you speak with so much empathy and thoughtfulness, I have no doubt in my mind that this too shall pass. I'm confident that you will do everything in your power to find the money, first of all, and also to ensure that they get the support. On that note, ladies and gentlemen, yes, I've seen some hands up already, but permit me to acknowledge our media partners picking the feed. Then we'll come to you for the questions. If you have any question, they will bring the microphone to you. You show by hand, mention name and affiliation, and then proceed to ask your question. And please, let's not drag. Keep it brief so that we can take as many as we can. But if you join this press briefing from the comfort of your homes or offices, we are live on GTV, UTV, Joy News, Channel 1 TV, Net2 TV, ABC News GH, Sagani TV, Northern TV, Asase Radio, Oman FM, and streaming on Facebook at Ministry of Information, Mofa Ghana, Think Media, and Kofigo Media. Thank you. So, Mr. Atamensa, I saw your hand. And yes, okay. So we'll take the first four. I've seen 4 hands. So
yeah, thank you.
Okay.
Atamensa from Ghana News Agency. Yeah, the two ministers have painted a very bleak picture, and I'm so disappointed in the narration. Why am I disappointed? Because over the past 3 or 4 decades, environmental experts have predicted environmental challenges that will come because of the climate change. And so even in desert countries like United Arab Emirates, Israel, that are naturally located in desert areas, made provision to ensure food security. In Ghana, when the government took over, they came out with policies to ensure food security. One of them, one district, one dam. They said they will implement 1 village, 1 dam. Then 1 district, 1 warehouse. And over the period, they brief us about the food storage and all those things they are doing to ensure the nation is secured. So I'm surprised by this narration. Would the two ministers admit failure on your part to being proactive in averting the situation? That's my first question. The second question. Please let me finish my questions.
No. Please go ahead. I'll let you ask the question. Yes. But they did not admit failures on their part.
Whether they will admit failure.
You can ask your question
because
without
of the policies the government
what
have
they
already
haven't
said.
said.
So my second question. The Minister of Agriculture said they will ban export.
Because I thought that wasn't a fair ask. Yeah.
Yes.
No, please go ahead.
Yeah, my second question. The minister said because of the dire situation we find ourselves, there will be ban of export of grain outside Ghana. But rather, we will rely on ECOWAS grain reserve to help us cushion the nation. But we are in the same zone. Ghana, we are part of ECOWAS. And so if other countries have managed to secure their food, then it's an issue. If we are going to rely, while we are going to suppress exports, but we are going to rely on ECOWAS countries to support us, That is my problem. Regarding that, Ghana is in the same zone as other West African countries.
Thank you for the question.
I have other two questions.
Oh, you've already asked two. It is fair that you know that it's not fair. You need to allow your colleagues to also ask their questions.
Okay.
If there is room for other follow-up questions, why not? But let us give your colleagues the opportunity.
Honorable Minister, the other person said your case on Mechicano, Ama Akuafono. Yenimoma team a do political season here. Politicians never say Omochama or Munko for one. Quan Ben sooner be assure and say, and conquer party for one Marco Chabama Ghana Funina, and we are one. And number two, a ban is saying yes, a copy and wealthy a hot one in China. Among five Mram share consent GMO by force, yen sign agreement via concerning desperation a woman say GMO by share con yen Yamani Biana. A day assurance Obama say, and no, your election yen is adding ban yen con sign agreement via the GMO by share con.
Thank you. Okay, so we take the third and the fourth at the back.
Thank you very much. My name is Cliff Ekufa, right for the Ghanaian Times. Minister, I would want to find out what the situation is like in the neighboring West African countries that have similar climatic conditions like Ghana. And then secondly, beyond the measures you have taken, what measures have you put in place to ensure that we don't politicize the crisis as has been spelled out by the Minister of Finance? Because this country, we are very quick to unduly politicize virtually everything. So I would want to find out, but for us to succeed, all of us would have to come on board and collectively deal with the issues. So I want to know the measures you have put in place to ensure that you rally all Ghanaians behind the cause. Thank you very much.
Okay, thank you. There is one hand at the back. Okay, Nana, please, I'll come to you.
Good evening. My name is Sako Kraba. I work with the EIB Networks, Kasapa. Minister, I want to find out from you. Have you assessed the cost associated with the ban of these grains as a nation? And then my second question goes to the Finance Minister. With all these interventions outlined, will it have any impact or effect on the country's inflation, given the fact that some few months ago you made it clear that Ghana will end the year with a single digit of inflation? Thank you very much.
Okay, I can't see. Okay, Nana, your hand was up, and we'll take one at the back. Yeah, the ladies, you don't have any questions, or maybe when I come next time. I was looking around just to give you the opportunities.
Two questions for Agric and Finance. Honorable Minister of Agric, we all know that climate change, sorry, my name is Napoku from Daily Searchlight. Climate change is affecting Africa, and for that matter, we are all going through it. What permanent, as it were, or long-term solution or policies or programs are you going to put in place to avoid some of these things, because they will recur, because we are facing climate change in the sub-region and Africa for that matter, so that we may not come back here and then be asking for people to come and help us on asking for arms and that, so that we can be on our feet and face the problem head on. Now, Minister of Finance, you are talking of transparency. You know, most often when this thing happens, people overly politicize it. Are you going to include